Tonight. There's no wrong answers. Nobody's being judged. You're just asked to speak from your heart, and so don't worry about being judged. Don't worry about saying something wrong. There's no wrong answers tonight. It's speaking from your heart and sharing. Kim, what's your thoughts on how drug addiction affects families?
It destroys them. It's like tornadoes through your family. I used to sit and wonder if my brother was going to be alive for many years, when he was going to die. I watched him die many times and brought back, and it destroys your heart, it destroys your family. It just kills you. And then being an addict myself and an alcoholic, I destroyed other families. I put my daughter through something a child should not go through. But as like Eric, through my recovery, I can be there for them today. I was in recovery when my brother passed, and I was there for him. And I'm there for my daughter today, and for other people. And that's where my recovery has helped me, where I can help another addict and help open the doors to their recovery.
Thanks for sharing. I want to bring up Betty Ann Watts. 18 months ago today, Betty Ann lost someone dear to her, and so today is a very special day. So Betty, thanks for coming and sharing, and let's talk about how the drugs addiction had an effect on your family. And again, sorry for your loss. I know today's a special day. Thanks for coming on such a difficult day.
Thanks. Yeah, I gotta start somewhere. I can't believe it's 18 months ago today that I found my son unconscious, unresponsive on the floor. And he didn't make it. It wasn't the first overdose. He had a couple. The first one being in 2003 and Christmas morning of 2003. And he woke up on New Year's Day of 2004. And then the in and out of rehabs and the psych units and everything. He was such a talented boy. I mean, he was 33, but he still was 20 when he died, because that's what happens with addiction. You're still there, so even though my son might, 33 years, 5 months and 5 days actually, he was still my little boy, and I miss him every minute of every day, every hour. So what I can tell you as a parent to a child that died from this horrible thing is that if your child is alive, you still have hope. I always had hope. I was his advocate. And back in 2003, it wasn't like, it's better now, but it's still not good. But people are more aware of addiction and everything now, more so than 2003. And through the years, I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many rehab stints and psych units and the trials and tribulations, and I was glad I was able to spend the last 5 months of his life, the two of us together. I'm glad I found him. I'm glad it was me he died with, which is a crazy thing to say, but he wasn't alone. His mom was there, and he loved his mom and dad with all his heart. He didn't want to hurt us. It wasn't his intention. He wanted to get better. But I think also these drugs, they change the chemicals, the whole brain. It's different. I don't know, he wasn't the same after that first, let me tell you that in 2003, they didn't know it was an overdose. They actually told me they didn't know why. His body was failing. Had no idea. It wasn't until years later when people like Keith Ledger passed away from, like a small combination of drugs, and you wash it down with a glass or two of Merlot, and that's what happened to him in 2003. It was traces of Percocet, traces of heroin, traces of Xanax, and that's what shut his respiratory system down back then. But we didn't know. I didn't know. So I knew he wasn't right when he woke up, but something changed in the chemistry of his brain, changed then. His father and I would always say, pre-coma and post-coma Michael. And let me tell you, he was a creative person. He played the guitar so good, wrote songs, and thank God for YouTube for that. When I have the strength, I can look at it. I haven't had the strength really to do much of anything. I think this is the first time I actually came out and spoke on his 18-month anniversary. And it breaks everybody's heart. His dad and I are, we've been divorced forever, but we were his parents, and he loved us, and he knew we loved him. And I thank God that he knew that. So you're still here. You're still here. So you don't want to be where I am right now. No parent should have to bury their son or daughter. And addiction runs in families, whether it's alcohol, drugs, smoking. I mean, my old aunt had said, Betty Ann, we have addicts in the family. And I'm like, what? She goes, smoking. As we start laughing, oh, okay, Aunt Joe. Okay. But it's true. I smoke. I have a couple of cocktails, but I've always known, so at a young age, coming from parents of alcoholics, not full-blown, well, my father not full-blown, but my mother went through some things after my father died, and it is in families. I'm going through a niece right now with alcoholism. She almost died in a year and a half ago, December, or whenever. The month before my son died, we thought my niece was going to go from cirrhosis. She's 46 now. My sister has emphysema, severe emphysema in both lungs. The first thing she wanted to do to get out of the hospital last week was to smoke a pack of cigarettes. That's what I'm saying. It's just something. It's awful. I have two brothers. One has been in recovery for a very long time. In fact, he opens up early morning risers here in Long Beach for a long time, the meetings. And my oldest brother, if he makes it to 70, I think he's 69, is an alcoholic from beer. You think that beer can't do it? Trust me. Anyway, I don't know what I'm rambling. Now I'm rambling. I'm sorry. But all I can tell you is if your child is alive, your sibling, your parent, if they're still alive, there's hope. Because once they're dead, all the hope is gone. Everything is gone. My whole life has changed. I barely can get out of bed in the morning. I'm so happy I actually took a shower, got dressed, put on makeup today to come here. My good friend Teresa came with me. Just to take a step forward, maybe share. I love my son. I love him more now than I ever did. Your mother loves you. Your father loves you. Your siblings, if you have any, love you. I don't have any other kids. He was my one and only. No grandkids, no nothing. It was it. He was it. And for his father, too. And I miss him every second. But he died, actually. To say how I found him. Would you mind if I said how I found him? All right. I was in my studio apartment, and it was 7 o'clock in the morning. I knew something might have been up the night before, but I figured I'll deal with this tomorrow. I had my suspicions that he was using, and I woke up at 7 o'clock to go to the bathroom, and he was sound asleep. And like you said, with the chest rising up and down, made sure the chest was rising up and down. He was alive. I was like, oh, thank God. About 30 minutes later, I woke up startled, and the silence was deafening. I don't know what it was, but there was just nothing. There was no sound. And I look at the door, and I see the chains thing still there, and I'm like, Michael, Michael, Michael. And I go to the bathroom, the door is locked. I go to the kitchen, I get a butter knife. Thank God I learned this when I was a kid. And I open up the bathroom door, and he was laying there. No needle or anything. You don't have to be an injection. You know, it doesn't have to be an injection. I saw something in the toilet, a glassine bag, and my son was laying on the floor, and I had to call 911. And I was a 911 operator for almost 30 years, and that poor guy at the end, at the other end of the phone, I had to give him chest compressions and CPR, and I did that, and then I had to open up the door, you know. So I ran, open up the door, and I run back, and I'm still giving him compressions, and he had a smile on his face. He was still warm. It was like, I know he left, and he woke me up. I believe that, and I think he came to enough. Well, the EMTs, you know, they worked on him for a while, and so I wouldn't have to have the coroner and everybody and have his body there on the floor, that they were able to transport him to a hospital, which I'm grateful for. Stupid things you're grateful for. and he wound up passing away that night. So this is my great nephew. He's going to be 23. He went to the Marines for 4 years. He just got out. He's lost many friends that he went to high school with, you know, and he ran into one of his friends at a store last week or so, and he goes, oh, they call me Aunt Bibi. You remember Aunt Bibi, that kid that came when I was going away? You know, he was a burly kid. And I said, yeah. He goes, skin and bones. And his fiance says to me, he goes, I never saw him hug somebody so much. You know, skin and bones from a kid that worked out and did things. Just got lost. The stuff is so strong now. It's not like back in 1960s, 70s, you know, and we all had the fear, you know, nobody ever really did that. Heroin, you know, and then you get doctors, you know, in the 90s that are prescribing opiates and stuff, and I think that's when my son started. And it, you know, it just took off. It took off, and it's cheaper, and now it's cut with things that are even more powerful, and you just don't know what you're getting anywhere. You don't know. We have friends that passed away that, you know, nobody wants to say that they died from a heroin overdose. But people that you would never think that died from a heroin overdose died from a heroin overdose. Pillars in the community, loved by everybody, but nobody's saying anything because, you know, it's still that stigma around all this stuff, and it could be anybody. It could be anybody. You just don't know.
Thank you so much for sharing.